Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky. This time we're talking about the week of April 10th, 2023. And, I feel like we've been talking a lot lately about the planets moving against the stars and thinking about where the moon is. And this particular week, the moon's fading through. It starts the week pretty bright. But it's fading through third quarter and getting a little bit fainter as the week goes on. So maybe we can start thinking about looking at some other things other than bright stars, bright planets, and the moon itself. And we have at times talked about the meridian line. Your meridian line is the line that runs north-south directly overhead. Objects that are on the meridian at midnight, if you don't play games with your clock, which we do, of course, the objects that are on the meridian at midnight are as far away from the sun in the sky as you can get. So they're as well placed for observing as they can be, as they ever get, and it's a great time to observe them when they're on the meridian at midnight. You'll see them most of the night, depending on how close to the horizon they are for you. We've talked about this before. So it's often good to stop and say, what's highest in the sky right now? What's best place for observing right now? And one of those things is Corvus the crow. And I apologize, I always apologize for this. I start drawing on the board and I write notes and I do this thing and that thing. And by the time we get to the point where we're ready to start talking, the board is such a mess that you can't really tell what's going on. But Corvus looks like a bright little quadrilateral down here. These four bright stars that sits below Leo and Virgo. And for whatever reason, and one of these things that I can't really tell, Corvus is one of my favorite constellations. And there's nothing particularly special in it. There's nothing, but I can see it always. I look south. So from where I am, this is about as far south as I'm going to see a whole constellation. And it gets above the horizon for me, where I am at mid-northern latitudes. It gets above the horizon pretty well. But this time of year, springtime, headed into early summer, late winter, I often look south, and there's Corvus. It's kind of, the sky's washed out when I'm looking that far south, so I don't see a lot of stars around it, and Corvus just kind of pops, these four stars of Corvus. And so this is what we want to do, is we want to look for these four stars of Corvus. If you know Spica in Virgo, you take the handle of the Big Dipper, and the handle of the Big Dipper curves to the bright star Arcturus. We like to say it arcs to Arcturus. And then you spin on down to Spica, coming down this direction. So you can maybe find Spica, the bright star in Virgo. It sits at the base of the Y of Virgo, like this. And so, and the tail of Leo, the triangle with Dana Bola, the lion's tail, right there, is up this direction. So this gives us a sense of scale a little bit and what we're looking at. Again, it'll be up pretty much all night. If you go out early in the evening, just after dark, you want to look east directly south to see this region of the sky. And if you're going out after midnight, more toward morning, then you want to look well west of directly south. And if you're going out somewhere around the middle of the night, looking directly south will allow you to see this. For me, Spike is relatively easy to see, but for me, I just see that group of four stars against the southern horizon, and that's one of the reasons Corvus just kind of pops out there for me. It was one of the later constellations that I learned as I was learning these things, later asterisms that I became familiar with as I was growing up, and so maybe that's one of the reasons I like it so much, is it was all of a sudden there was something I didn't know before, and then I knew it, and I saw it. So the top two stars we often associate names with, and not the bottom two stars. My guess is that's something of a northern hemisphere bias in our observing. These two stars are easier to see than those two stars. They're just further north, but I don't know that. I don't really know the history of why we associate names, common names, with some of these stars, and we don't with other stars. Algorab is the leftmost corner star up here. It's about a third magnitude star. Pretty bright. Not super, super bright, but pretty bright. And so it's a third magnitude star up here. Jana is the star that's over to the right on the upper right corner of the quadrilateral that is Corvus the crow. I've seen, we usually use Hinckley's star names. That's where we reference what the names of the stars are, what the history of those names are, and learn something about them. as we do this. And he leaves us with this star, the star Zania that we'll talk about momentarily. He leaves us a little bit short there. He doesn't really tell us what those names translate as or what they mean. We know it's an Arabic word, right? It's got al at the beginning of it, the. And so we're translating this from Arabic. I have seen it translated as just the crow, the raven, to talk about this entire constellation. Janaya is also an Arabic word, al-Janaya, that would be the al-Janah, that would be the right wing of the crow. So the right wing over here and the crow itself right there. Janah is a 2.6 magnitude star, a little bit brighter than Algorand. The two base stars are flipped in terms of brightness. They're about the same brightness, about the same magnitude as the upper stars. Epsilon is down here in the lower right corner, is a 3rd magnitude star, and the lower left corner is Beta at 2.7 magnitude. And so these are fairly bright. So these are the stars I see. It's interesting to me, and maybe it's interesting to you, I don't know, but it's interesting to me that alpha, usually, remember, we assign Greek letters to the stars, and this is historic and not an exact science by any means, but alpha is typically the brightest star in the constellation, beta second, gamma, delta, on down through the list of stars. So you expect the alpha star to be the brightest. Now, often it's not. Often it's the second brightest or the 3rd brightest, but it's close. There's some bright stars in there. For whatever reason, the alpha star in Corvus sits just below Epsilon over here and is much, much fainter. It is 2.5 times fainter than Epsilon, and is not nearly as bright as any of the stars in this pattern, and I don't typically see it. I can see it if I work at it, but if I just look up and look at the constellation, say, there's my friend Corvus, I don't see alpha. So you can go find the alpha star sitting just below the lower right corner of the quadrilateral that marks Corvus for us. So this is an interesting thing that I wonder about when I look at this. Down below the lower left corner, below Beta down here, so you take something like the distance between Epsilon and Beta and move down this direction, probably not, maybe half that distance down this direction. I probably overdrew that. It's globular cluster M68. So globular star clusters are these big groups of stars that sort of hover around the middle of the galaxy. The middle of the galaxy isn't really this direction. The middle of the galaxy is towards Sagittarius, which is pretty far over here in what we're doing. So this is something of an outlying globular cluster, pretty far south for some of us, as far north as we are. But it's an interesting object to try to find if you've got your small telescope. The other thing, Algorand itself is a binary star. It looks like a binary star. We don't see them move relative to each other. That is, we haven't seen the orbit. So if it's a binary star, it's orbiting very, very slowly, but they do seem to be flying through space together. They seem to have the same proper motion, the same motion through space. So it sure looks like it's a binary star, like they're associated with each other. Very nice binary star. That's this upper left corner star for a small telescope. You got your small telescope out. Look at that. It's the separation's easy, 20-some arc seconds, so really widely separated. But the color difference, the brightness difference is spectacular. One's a 3rd magnitude star, and the other one's 8th, I think, magnitude star. But you see a faint star, bright star. It's a beautiful faint star, bright star double right there. Then you come up this direction and tip up this way about the same distance, and you get to a nice side-on galaxy, M104. So M104 is a big edge-on spiral galaxy, got a big central bulge and a prominent dust lane, and it's a bright splash in a telescope. So you got your telescope exploring this region that's high in the sky right now around Corvus. For sure, check out the binary star that is Algorand, and check out the globular star cluster M68, and check out galaxy M104. Now this region of the sky, we're looking through the thin part of the disk of our galaxy. We've got an edge-on spiral galaxy like M104 here is going to look like this, right? And that's what ours would look like. And we're looking up through the edge of it right here. It's a little bit surprising to see a globular cluster here. Not hugely surprising, but a little bit surprising to see that globular cluster. And when you look through the thin part of the disk, you can look out into deep space. If you try to look through the thick part of the disk, you can't see all that far because there's just too much foreground stuff in the way. You don't see that stuff. So looking out through the thin part of the disk, we can see out into deep space, and that's what we see. We see lots and lots of galaxies. I'm going to leave you with one more galaxy. There's so many galaxies here. You won't know if you're actually looking at the galaxy I direct you to unless you have a go-to telescope that tells you that's what you're doing. but because you might land on a different galaxy. But another bright, beautiful galaxy is M61, right in the part. If you think of Virgo here as a wine glass, it's right in the middle of the glass right there. So you got Spica down here, Porrima at the base of the Y, and then as you move up, you got a star and a star and a star and a star, and they're not super bright stars. You've got Zania here that is about a 4th magnitude star, and Nu. You got a star in the middle and Nu up here that's about a 4th magnitude star. You've got Delta going the other direction, 3.4. If you draw a line from Delta across to Nu and move up from Porrima up this direction, right into the middle of the glass, you run across big, bright galaxy M61. Also, this is all stuff, again, it's on the meridian near midnight right now. It's about as high in the sky, well placed as it's going to get for observing. Now, this whole region is full of galaxies, and we could spend all day. I could give you a 3-hour video and just go from galaxy to galaxy to galaxy and say, yeah, you could look at this one, you could look at this one, you could look at this one. But let's stop with that there today. Let's learn the stars of Corvus and get to appreciate Corvus every time we see it pop into the sky. And maybe some of these stars like Zania and Nu and Delta, why this has a name and these don't have names that we typically associate with them, I have no idea. And it's one of these things that can keep you up at night, is wondering about this kind of stuff. I could probably track it down, but I got other things that I get working on, and I'm doing those things, and I don't track it down. But so learn these stars in Virgo, learn these stars in Corvus, and if you got a small telescope and you're out there and you want to try to find M68, M104, M61, and enjoy the binary star that is Algorand. We've talked before, Porrima here, the gamma star in Virgo is a nice binary star too, and so that's worth checking out as well. So this is a great region of the sky. I hope you have clear skies and have a chance to get out here and enjoy some of this at this time of year when it's high in the sky. The beautiful thing about talking about this instead of planets moving against the stars is if it's cloudy for you this week, it's still going to be good next week and the week after and the week after that. So this is something that you got for the month ahead or more, you can enjoy this region of the sky and appreciate some of the things that we've talked about. So as always, everyone, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great week ahead.